The Nintendo Switch 2 is absolutely looming over the horizon when it comes down to it, and the Nintendo Switch this year doesn't have a lot of big system seller type of games. We're getting a lot of remasters, remakes, ports, and things like that, which is completely fine for the last year of a system and better than what Nintendo's done previously. But what I wanted to do in this video is go back and take a look at 7 underrated Nintendo Switch RPGs that deserve a second chance. These are games that you guys have talked to me about extensively, whether it's on Twitter or in my comment section or on the forum boards, anywhere where I've seen people talk about what games should I pick up on the Nintendo Switch, what should I take another look at, or games that drastically undersold compared to how good they are in my opinion. Most of these games haven't even hit 3 million units sold or are right at there. Not that that's not good, but they absolutely could have done better. So in this video, we're going to go over and highlight some of those games, and maybe you take a second look at them if you skipped it the first time around. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. Now let's go ahead and first jump into Persona 5 Strikers. Now, if you've played the Persona series games, these are high-end turn-based RPGs, some of the best turn-based RPGs out there. Those do extremely well and sell good and everybody loves them, but there is a little known spin-off slash actually kind of not spin-off game because it's mainline story with Persona 5 Strikers, and it's a combination of a action RPG and the Musou action games. They kind of mash them together and it's done incredibly well. This might be one of the best, if not the best, Koei Tecmo made type of Musou action RPG out there. But once again, don't think of it completely as a Musou Hyrule Warriors or Dynasty Warriors type of game. Think of it as a combination or a blend of a typical action RPG, in addition to some cool parts that Musou does. There's platforming, boss battles, great music, great story, a lot of different levels to go through and play. The graphics are fantastic. This is a very underrated game that did well, sold over 1 million units when you combine all the different platforms that it's on, but I think that it could have done absolutely better, and it's super cheap at this point. I've seen it for as low as $5 in some places and as high as about $20 or so. So if you're looking for a really fun, different style of action RPG, and if you've played some of the Persona games and are looking for something a bit different, then Persona 5 Strikers absolutely should be something that you go out there and pick up. And yes, while you do have to know a little bit about the base Persona 5 game when it comes to characters and the story and some of the things, I think that the game does a great job of actually telling you about what happened and recapping things and then getting right into the new content because it had its own story and its own place in the Persona 5 timeline. So I think it's great for that, and that's why you should check out Persona 5 Strikers. Now let's go ahead and move into another Atlas RPG here, and that is Shin Megami Tensei 5. And this is great that I'm bringing this game up because Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance is coming out this June across all platforms. Nintendo Switch obviously has a version as well. So if you missed out or if you skipped Shin Megami Tensei 5, check out this one. Vengeance is going to have a bunch of awesome additions, upgrades, new different things added in. It's fantastic. Please check out my everything you need to know about Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance if you want to know more in depth about what they're doing. But the breakdown here is that it is the original game, but they're completely tweaking different things. So think about like Persona 5 Royal, something along the lines of that. They're completely tweaking it, but it might even go a step further because about halfway or so in between the normal campaign, you can actually branch off, and it has a whole separate 80-hour campaign or so, along with new characters added in that are on your team, human characters. They've got a brand new female main character, also another guy that was there with you in the original game. He's going to be there with you, actually using his demons as well with you on squad. So I think this is going to be a far better release of the game. Plus, there's just so many quality of life tweaks to the different battle mechanics and systems, a bunch of new demons added in as well. So this is going to be the definitive version of the game where it's going to fix a lot of the issues that people had, like the story, for example. So if you didn't try out SMT5, this game didn't do over, I think, 1.5 to 2 million units. So there's a lot of people who've never played this game. I think this is the perfect time to go back in and try out Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, coming out this June. But let's go ahead and move to another series that's pretty much wrapped up when it comes to its trilogy of games, all across the Nintendo Switch, and that is the Atelier Ryza series 1, 2, and 3. These are games all rated in about, I think, the 80s category or so, and each one adds something new to the series. I think they did a phenomenal job when it comes to the music, the story, the character, the voice acting. All of that is greatly done, and by the time that you get to the third game in the series, you'll see, oh my gosh, they added these big old huge areas. They added different buddies that you can ride on and you can kind of move about. The alchemy and all of that has been advanced quite a bit, and the combat has been enhanced as well in terms of the turn-based combat and what they've done. It's super flashy, a lot of stuff to collect, a lot of different characters that you have on your team in order to play. And as you go on, I think that they did a great job with just really filtering what was important in the Atelier series and kind of what didn't work and trying out new things. Now, it doesn't always come together to create, oh my gosh, the greatest RPG experience, and that's why as many people don't play the game just because of certain things like that. But overall, I think that Atelier Ryza, that series, if you haven't tried it out, which I think they said it sold about 2 million units combined, all platforms, so a lot of people have never played Atelier Ryza before. I think now is a perfect time when we don't have all these new big games coming out. Now's the perfect time to check out Atelier Ryza 1 through 3, play the games. They are kind of pricey if you want them physical on the Nintendo Switch. You might be able to find some discounts on other systems, but I think it is worth playing, especially if there's some sales or deals going on digitally for the games. All right, let's move towards the next game here, and we're talking about Trials of Mana. This is a complete remake of the original Seiken Densetsu 3. I know there's a lot to it here, but it's a remake of that game. That's from the Super Nintendo era, and it's Unreal Engine 4. Square Enix completely remade, and this is a perfect time to get into Trials of Mana because Visions of Mana is coming out, I think, this summer or so. I think it's coming out this summer or fall. They haven't quite given an exact release date for the game, and Visions of Mana looks spectacular. It's being built for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, and no doubt there will be a Nintendo Switch version. And the reason why this series is even back at this point is because of what they did with Trials of Mana and also with the Seiken Densetsu collection or Secret of Mana collection on the Nintendo Switch and how well those games did. It showed that people want Secret of Mana, people want Trials of Mana, so we're getting it. So a perfect time to get back into this. Now, this game across all platforms, I think sold around 1.3 to 1.5 million. So there's tons of people who have not tried out the Mana series, and now would be a great time. Try it out on the Nintendo Switch. You can pick it up on Xbox or PlayStation when it comes to the Visions of Mana, or wait for the eventual Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game that I think will pretty much 100% come, because I think that's where most people are going to want to buy the game anyway. Just like most people bought Trials of Mana on the Nintendo Switch. So Trials of Mana, absolutely one of the best remake RPGs on the platform. Great combat, multiple different characters that you can use, replay value, very fun, polished combat as well, with upgrades and different things that you could do to adjust your character. A lot of cool different areas to go through, bosses to fight. I think it is a phenomenal remake of that original Super Nintendo game, and one that you guys should definitely give a second chance to. All right, next up, we're going to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 plus Future Redeemed. And I know what some of you guys are already saying. Wait a minute, how is this underrated? It's a 92 on Metacritic when it comes to Future Redeemed. It's an 89 when it comes to the base game. And yes, I know, but more people need to pick up this game. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 plus Future Redeemed is a series, is a game, Xenoblade series, that should be in the 3-4 million unit seller range with every single release plus. Now, what we've seen so far with Xenoblade Chronicles when it comes to the best selling would be Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which is almost at 3 million. It's getting towards that. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is about at 2 million. If you included Future Redeem, it's probably over 2 million units, which is good, but this series definitely deserves way more, and that's why I think it's underrated overall. People don't really see exactly what's great about the series. So if you haven't got into Xenoblade, let me tell you about it just a little bit here, guys. Let me tell you a little bit about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in particular. One of the best open worlds in gaming, hands down. You've got a day-night cycle, you've got some nice physics, cool biomes, different areas completely connected in an open world setting. Tons of different side quests to do, and honestly, the side quests are some of the best side quests that I've ever seen. They're pretty much main quests, but they said, hey, we're gonna make them side quests to let you go seek out and fill up the whole map and see exactly what you can do. But I think that this game is probably the most impressive Nintendo Switch open-ended game, because in this title, you can have 7 characters on screen, all at once. You can switch between them at any time, whether you're in combat or out of combat, and the battles are seamless. You transition right into battles right there. You can run away whenever you want. You can get into battles whenever you want in a completely open world setting with day-night cycles, with water effects and physics, with so much different stuff that you don't even see in modern end RPGs to this day. And they're doing it on the limited hardware compared to what's out there with Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. So it's really cool to see what Xenoblade Chronicles 3 did and the type of game that it is. So more people absolutely need to give it a chance. I think it's underrated at a 89 on Metacritic and a 92 on the Future Redeem. I think it's higher than that, and maybe that's just the super Xeno fan in me. But honestly, after 200 hours of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and another 50 plus hours of Future Redeem, so a total of 250 hours plus, I don't think I've had as much fun with any other Nintendo Switch RPG just overall when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles. If you factor in the story, the gameplay, the mechanics, innovation, music, I mean, we can go into a whole other scenario where we talk about how incredible the music is and how there's over 100 plus tracks and how it's beautifully designed and orchestrated. But once again, that's just part of the experience that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is. And I feel that it's underrated compared to what it does, compared to how many people actually play the series, but you never know what's going to happen in the future. I think a Nintendo Switch 2 version of this game with 60 frames per second and upscaled up to higher resolutions, I think that could do some wonders because the game really is impressive for what they're doing on the Nintendo Switch base by itself. All right, moving on to the next game here, guys. Let's talk about Octopath Traveler 1 and 2, and both of these games are fantastic. Now, out of all the games on this list, I'm pretty sure Octopath Traveler is the most popular when it comes to sales. Octopath Traveler 1 sold 3 million units across the Nintendo Switch and PC versions, with the majority of that being on the Nintendo Switch. So Octopath Traveler, absolutely one of the more popular games. However, the sequel, Octopath Traveler 2, which is the focus of what I'm going to be talking about today, definitely did not do as well. And that was across the PS4, PS5, the Nintendo Switch. I think it's also on PC as well. And I think that it kind of launched in a little bit of a bloated time period at the beginning of 2023, but I still feel that it's a very good game. It's a very good game that does a lot of things right. One of the big things that I think that they kind of fixed a bit was some of the intertwined stories. Now, it's still not completely like a Xenoblade story structure or anything, but I think it's better how you have these different intertwined stories within the characters. And I feel that the combat system with the latent powers and other things that they've added in to make it faster and more fun to play is really good. Plus that story and some of the cruelty in addition to plot twists that it has with the different characters are going to have you basically going through the range of emotions from being completely elated and happy, but then thinking, oh my gosh, these people are absolutely terrible when it comes to some of the villains that you come across. And if you love the old school 16-bit RPGs, the old school style, this game kind of takes that base and says, we're going to add new things to it. I personally love the combat system with the HD rumble or with the haptics on the PS5. That just felt great to play. They did a great job with that, but the battle system just flows. You're going to be powering up and using multiple turns or stalking your turns in order to have better strategies. You're going to be switching out your different members that have unique abilities and different classes that you can switch between, exploring the whole world, optional dungeons, super bosses, all sorts of crazy stuff are in this game. And it's one of the best well-rounded turn-based JRPG experiences out there on the Nintendo Switch, hands down. So if you have not experienced Octopath Traveler 1 and 2, definitely go out there and try the games out. I think that Octopath Traveler 2 does a great job of improving on so many things from the first game, which many reviewers did say. I just think that people didn't give it enough of a chance, or maybe they played Octopath 1, they didn't really beat the game, or they didn't really care about it too much and didn't try out Octopath Traveler 2, but now might be a good time to give it a second chance. Try out the games and see what you think at this point. I think you might be surprised that you'll like Octopath Traveler 1 and especially Octopath Traveler 2. And I will say one more thing with the graphics in the game. The HD 2D has always been awesome since its inception with Octopath Traveler 1, but they did a great job of enhancing it way further. If you compare Octopath 1 to Octopath 2, the graphics definitely got far more advanced in between, which it should, right? They're 5 years apart, but I was expecting it, if they were going to do another one, to look pretty similar, which it does, but the graphics are definitely definitely better when it comes to the background and the effects and stuff that they've added into it just from a visual perspective. Okay, now we're moving on to the next game here, guys, and we're talking about Bravely Default 2. Bravely Default 2 is a game that came out back in 2021 on the Nintendo Switch, and it was kind of just pushed aside. It's a game that has a high 70s average, not the best average overall, and people played that demo on the Nintendo Switch. They got bodied by some bees and said, you know what, I'm done. This game's not good. Now, thankfully for Team Asano, thankfully for Square Enix, the game ultimately ended up selling over 1 million units on the Nintendo Switch by itself. So, well funded, everything's good there for a AA RPG. But I think that if you went back and tried out the game now, and if you can find it on discount or sale, and I played a ton of this game. I put 70 something hours into the game or so, beat a lot of the super bosses, went through and did so many different things. This game is very good, and it's actually more in depth than Octopath Traveler. Octopath Traveler borrows its battle system, but strips things back quite a bit. This is very much the advanced version combat-wise from Octopath Traveler, where you have a ton of different classes. You can go brave and default multiple times at any turn. You can even default yourself and expend turns to unleash on enemies and then have to pay back those turns. So there's so many different little things that you can do to tweak your battle experience to really rise above and do something different from another player, to where, hey, one player might have this type of strategy with these different classes, but another player can do completely different things and have the same results or way better overall. So to me, Bravely Default 2 is like the ultimate version of what they were trying to do with the old school Final Fantasy job or class-based system. It's really good. Some people are just put off by some of the chibi style graphics, and I completely understand that. But now might be a good time to get into Bravely Default 2, because Team Asano has teased that there will be new Bravely Default information this year in 2024, and it seems like there's going to be a remake or remaster of the original Bravely Default game from the Nintendo 3DS, and maybe even Bravely Second End Layer, so we could have the whole Bravely series on the Nintendo Switch. So now might be a good time to get into Bravely Default 2, then see what they do for Bravely Default 1 and End Layer. But even if it was just Bravely Default 1 from the Nintendo 3DS, that game is awesome. It just needs a few different tweaks here and there to shore up the experience, and I think that it could rate higher than Bravely Default 2 because of what they did with the story overall. So Bravely Default 2, absolutely a game that you should look out for. Now, the last game here, and a bonus one that we're going to talk about, and it's not quite, I guess, the prototypical RPG like these other games, but it's Astral Chain. This game to me should be 3, 4, 5 million units in sales. It deserves every single bit of it. Yes, I understand. I know the story isn't the best. I get that. But the combat in here is quite possibly some of the unique and best combat on the Nintendo Switch or any other system, hands down. You have these different legions that you can pick. They're essentially your other team members that fight with you automatically. You're part of this elite operation, and you have to go out there and solve these aberration cases with these aliens essentially from a different dimension that come into the world and sometimes wreak havoc. It's a basic setup, but the execution is done incredibly well. Some of the best visuals, if not the best looking game on the Nintendo Switch graphically. Phenomenal music as well, but the shining star of this whole game, and why I'm telling you should go out there and give it a second chance or third chance. Just go out there, buy the game, brand new preferably, so the developers can actually know that they got another sale with Platinum Games, is the combat in here. I spent countless hours in this game, just toying away, tweaking with my different Legion setups, leveling up, replaying missions, going through, equipping, getting all the different things, the achievements in the game. This game is packed to the brim full of seamless content. And when I say seamless content, I mean that content that doesn't really like, oh my gosh, I gotta play this or I gotta do this. It's like, hey, this will help me out. Whenever I do this achievement or I do this thing in the game, I'll get something extra, like a customizable equipment, or I'll get something different to where I can make my character look different or different colors. I can completely customize my experience on what I want to do in this game. It's that good, and it's complete in terms of the game itself. You play the game, you beat the game. It can take you anywhere between, depending on the difficulty, between 10 to 30, 40 hours. It took me like 40 hours plus, but I was replaying missions and doing different things. And then after you beat the game, there's even more. There's DLC built into the game. So people people talk about, oh man, look at what Atlas is doing, look at what some of these other companies are doing with DLC and extra releases. Well, they built all the DLC into the game after you beat the game, where there's tons of replay value and missions and different things to do afterwards. So to me, Astral Chain absolutely should be a game that deserves a second chance if you have not picked it up. And I know a lot of you guys, despite this game being on almost all of my Nintendo Switch lists, a lot of you guys have still not picked up Astral Chain. So absolutely pick up Astral Chain. I give you guys a little bonus game there. I know that's more than 7 to 8 games because I said there's multiple games, but we're talking about series overall. What do you guys think overall when it comes to what I talked about here and these underrated Nintendo Switch RPGs that deserve a second chance from you out there? Let me know if you're planning on trying out any of these. Put a comment below and I'll do my best to go through all of them and maybe even have a follow-up with more games. So if you have an underrated RPG that you want me to check out or you want me to talk about, also put that in the comment section. But all right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch list videos, RPG vids, and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.